Alright guys, thanks for tuning in to Gear Worth Buying, where I'm going to try and give you an honest opinion on the things that I would spend money on or have spent money on. So today what we're going to talk about is something that I actually did spend money on, and hopefully you can see here, the Vusion Extreme Race Pack Instant FPV. Basically it's an all-in-one package that you can get and get flying pretty much straight away. In kind of an FPV racing type of deal. And there you can see I did buy this $349.99. So I spent my money on this thing, so I'm going to give you an honest review on it. So now that we got the box out of the way, I'll go ahead and show you guys what you actually get in the box, kind of starting with some of the boring bits. So you do get a charger. You can see it's branded Rise right there, and it's a 2 or 3 cell LiPo charger, and it just charges off the balance port. It'll work, it's just going to be pretty slow, and you'll only be able to charge one battery at a time. You get 4 spare props, and the props that come on it are these bi-blade. I don't even know what the pitch is, but they are 5-inch props, and you do get a complete extra set. I don't know what the pitch really is, but it's a pretty good pitch. I did fly with these. These are the ones I had on it originally, and they're pretty flexible. And I crashed this thing quite a bit, and I didn't break any. You can kind of see a stress mark in there with the light hitting. There you go. So I have crashed these things plenty of times, and they kind of nicked up on the edges, but they still haven't broken. So the props it comes with are pretty good, especially for somebody, a beginner, that's going to probably be crashing a whole lot. The next thing, let's talk about the radio. So you do get the radio, and initially it has this little FPV bracket thing on it. It's just 2 hex screws, and I don't like it on there, so I removed it. This one comes in mode 2. I'm pretty sure all of them are going to come in mode 2, because if I'm not mistaken, Hobbico is a US company. And the radio actually feels really good to me. I'm not a professional drone pilot or anything, but it does feel pretty good. And I would say that regardless of whether you're a thumber or a pincher, it would be a pretty comfortable control. You have your trims, your on and off, a little lanyard loop, obviously your gimbals. You have flight modes. All the way away is going to be like the most stability, whatever mode, horizon, whatever you want to call it. And then in the middle you have kind of an intermediate mode, and then all the way up is full acro. And then on the right over here you have a 2-position switch, which is your rates. So all the way down is going to be a little more aggressive, if I'm not mistaken, and when you flip it up, it's kind of it doesn't give you as much authority over the movement. So it's going to be a little bit easier for beginners if you keep that switch up and this switch all the way down. So it's kind of weird how they went backwards like that. You got some little feet on it. They got these little rubber pads and this stand on the back. It feels really good to hold, and you do need 4 AA batteries in here. So that's probably the only downside of the controller, is that you have to put those AA's, and there's no, I'm sure you can modify it to take a LiPo, but as it sits, you kind of need a bunch of extra AA's. I forgot to mention you have a video button here, and you can click that, and it'll record on the quad itself in that DVR, and you can even take pictures. So it's a pretty good little setup. The goggles. So you get these Tactic goggles. Nice head strap. The foam is pretty comfortable here. Nothing fancy really. I would say that for it being an all-in-one package, you can see the front of it opens, and they do have like a little tiny bit of screen adjustment here, but it's just magnetized and it holds the screen in there. So the goggles are pretty good. I actually like them. They're not extremely heavy, so they're not the greatest thing ever, but they do work. And initially, your screen here will have this little polar antenna or whatever it's called, and it's all right. And I would have left it on there, but I'll talk to you guys in a minute about why I got this antenna on here. So, oh, anyway, There you go. Your little screen. It's a 40 channel screen. You can kind of adjust it, and it does have DVR. You can see they have a I actually have a micro SD in here, so it does have DVR. There's, I guess, the 4.3 inch color monitor, 5.8 gigahertz receiver. No big deal. It's a pretty good screen. It'll get you started. It's not going to be like the best thing ever, but I have a feeling it's definitely not the worst either. So, and that screen would fit in here if you wanted to leave it on your controller. You could just have it sitting on your controller like this. I don't particularly like flying like that, so I don't do that. All right, so next thing, you get a battery. So you have everything you need. This is 11.1, so it's a 3S, 1500 milliamp hour, 25C battery. And it has like a proprietary-ish star connector or something. It will fit Dean's plugs. So that's interesting. And I mean, it's a good battery. It does what it needs to do. You probably get about 5 minutes of flight time if you're not really, destroying it. So I'm sure you guys noticed this is the original antenna, the video transmitter antenna that you get with this pack. Now, it did what it needed to do. It's just that, let me show you what happened here. So if you look in here, this antenna, it sits down in this little hole here, so you can see that. And whenever I was screwing it in, it's just heat shrink right here. It's just heat shrink holding this thing, like holding it to where you can screw it in and take it out. So I think what I did is I screwed it and screwed it and screwed it, and the heat shrink sheared, and then what I ended up with was a broken antenna. Now, if you pushed it all the way back in there, it would still work. I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't want to be flying around and have this thing just pop out and fall off in the sky, and I just completely lose my video signal. So what I did was I went ahead and got these TBS Triumph antennas. They are kind of expensive, but it's the only, you can see there it says RP-SMA, so that's reverse polarized. And these are the only ones they had, and it was $40 for a pair. So they're kind of expensive, but for this thing, they're a bit overkill, I would say. But it's the only ones that I had available to me, and this is what they look like here. And I've crashed quite a bit. You can see this one's all like been out of shape, and it's still, still doing just fine. So let's go ahead and put that back on there. That's what the deal is with the antenna. So it came with two, so I put one on the screen also, just because, why not? You get this little sunshade thing if you do want to have this screen mounted on your controller. You can see it in the sunlight. No big deal. I don't use any of that, so pretty much everything up there I don't really care for. That, this and that, I don't even use it. And last, but of course not least, you do get your quad. So you can see it's yellow. I really don't like yellow, but it is what it is. And I've done kind of some interesting things here. So originally, right here where this battery cable is, originally the battery cable comes out underneath, but that star connector was really annoying. It was really hard to get on and off of the battery, and I felt like I was going to break something, so I cut a hole in this plastic piece here, and then I went ahead and ran the battery cable through there. So here's your camera. You can see it says 200 there, so that's kind of the angle. And you can fly, you could probably fly pretty much like this. And the camera does fine, but it could have a little bit more angle on it, especially if you're really good at flying already. And you can it kind of ratchets up and down just into a couple of different positions. So it does what it does. It works. You can see there it says 200. That's the 200 milliwatt or whatever version. They do have a 25 milliwatt, I think, transmitter that you can get. And It's no big deal. The motors, these are aftermarket props, so just don't mind those for a second. You can see they're Rise branded. I don't know what they actually are, but 1806, and then I think it's 2280 kV motors. So they're kind of small for a full 5-inch racer, especially considering this thing is probably a little bit heavier than a lot of the carbon fiber ones that people are building nowadays. But they do, I mean, it still flies pretty good. It flies plenty fast, especially for a beginner like me. So the motors, you know, they're by no means are they like top of the line or anything. You're not going to be freaking flying in drone racing league. But they will get you started and get you up and flying, and you know, it does what it needs to do. Here on the right side of the body, you can see that little hole right here. You do have an onboard DVR, which is supposed to record at like 720p. The video is pretty good. It's not, you know, it's not like GoPro quality or whatever, but it is pretty good for a little tiny, you know, drone DVR. So let's take off this. This is where your battery would go. You can see you just slide this cover out, and your battery slots right in there. You kind of tuck up the wires, do what you got to do, and you slide that black piece back over it. Gives your battery a little layer of protection, and it works pretty good. It's nice that you don't have to worry about landing on your battery or having your battery up top where you can chop it with the props or whatever. So the battery is pretty tucked away, pretty cool. So this little wire here is actually your radio antenna. So your control all comes from this little tiny ugly wire, and that kind of makes me nervous, but it does work, and I've gone a pretty good range with it. So I mean, I guess it's okay. I'm sure it's probably not the greatest thing ever, but it does work. And then here, this top plate actually comes off too. I'm not going to take it off, but because I have my battery wire or my power wire, whatever you want to call it, through here, and it's kind of a pain. But normally you can just slide this off. There's a little button in there. You can change the band on your video transmitter, and you know, it works. It does what it needs to do. So you can see you have LEDs. You're gonna have red in the back, white up here on the front, and I probably should have taken these props off for this video, but I don't really feel like it. So there you go. That's pretty much it. And one of the things that they're kind of like touting about this, that supposedly it's like really awesome or whatever, is that right here and right here there are two little bolts, and if you take those out, this entire arm, which contained in here, obviously you have your motor, and then you have your ESC inside of here, like just tucked up in there somewhere, and you basically slide this arm out, buy a new one for like 30 or 35 bucks maybe, and slide it in, put back those two bolts, and you're ready to go if you break an arm or if you break a motor or whatever. And you can buy just like the plastic parts if you just break that and your motor and ESC is still good. So I mean, it is kind of cool, but I don't know, you know, I think that they're making it seem a little more useful than it is, to be honest. But it is a good feature for new people. If you don't like soldering and, you know, all of that, you don't have to with this. So it's definitely good for a beginner, and it flies plenty fast enough. I'll show you guys some of the video footage. The only downfall to this particular quad is that there's no real solution to mount a GoPro or like a you know, an action cam that's like full HD. And it can be done. I have done it, and I'll show you guys that footage too. But you can't have if you have your FPV camera up, you can't mount anything in front here because you won't be able to see where you're going. And you can't fly at line of sight. Obviously, you could just put that down, strap a Velcro, a GoPro right here or something. But you won't be able to fly FPV. So with your FPV, the only option is to try and mount it somewhere underneath, and you're pretty liable to kind of break it up a bit. You know, you're gonna be always landing on it. So anyway, that's probably one of the bigger downsides, is that there's no good way to mount a GoPro in here. However, you know, for a beginner, and you're just kind of learning to fly, or you want to start flying something a little faster than just like toy quads, this is really good. It's a pretty good starter package. I've been crashing this thing, and I say crashing, I've been trying to fly it and pretty much crashing repeatedly for about a month now at least. And the only thing that I've broken is this LED bar doesn't work anymore. This back arm is like, the plastic is just slightly bent right there. And the plastic without the motor and everything is only like $10 to replace, so that's no big deal. Those are the only two things I've broken. So all in all, this thing has been holding up really, really nicely. And, you know, for a beginner, durability is definitely, you know, it should be pretty much your number one priority. It's pretty heavy, and it does carry. I have a Sony HD AS20 or something like that, an action cam, and I just stick it in this little foam, and I have stuck it up here, I've stuck it on the bottom, I've even faced it backwards and just taped it down on there. And it does carry it, but it definitely affects the flight time to like maybe 2 or 3 minutes max if you're not pushing it very hard. The next negative is that the batteries, this is an extra battery that I bought, they're $30, which is pretty expensive for a 3-cell battery. And they're not really proprietary, meaning that you can buy any battery and plug it into here. However, the compartment where the battery sits is pretty unique. And one of the only batteries I've found that fit in there are these Gens Ace. Let's see if I can get you guys a better view. So these Gens Ace 11.1 1300s. And if I'm not mistaken, these are the same thing as a Tattoo battery. And they do come, but these come with Dean's connectors instead of the XT60. So these fit in there just perfectly, and they're like half the price. These are like $13 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. You can pick up a whole bunch of these. They give you almost the same flight time as the 1500s, and they're half the price. So I would definitely pick up, you know, like 10 of these bad boys if you have it. If not, you know, just get 2 or 3. I would say 5 batteries is about a minimum that I would want to go and drive somewhere to fly. Definitely more is better. And then I do have this 2200 of the same brand, but it fits in there, you know, this way, but it's too long, so it sticks up like that. And I have flown it, and I just take a piece of tape and wrap it over that end right there and just plug everything in. And it works, but it just doesn't fit in there very good, and I don't particularly care to have a battery, you know, poking out the bottom of something. And the last thing, so this is the original transmitter. You can see you have another button here. This one changes like the bands or something. I don't know, whatever. Changes something. But the camera was still working and I could still fly. I just couldn't record to the actual DVR right here. And Hobbico was nice enough. I contacted them. I actually called and I spoke to a guy. His name was Dexter, and told him that at the time I had only had this thing for like 5 days and I'd barely even flown it. And he was like, you know, just send me the part number that you need and we'll send you out a replacement. And they did, and it got here, you know, maybe a week later, and it's in there now and it's working just fine. So it kind of sucked, but Hobbico did make it right. You know, they sent me a brand new entire camera and transmitter. And this is the part number if you're curious. Rise 2018. So they did send me a new one free of charge. I didn't even have to pay for shipping or anything. I just sent them a copy of my receipt, and they sent me that. So all in all, Hobbico customer service, excellent. Again, I would say that this is definitely great for somebody that's not necessarily new to flying, but has never flown anything really fast or like without auto level or gyros or anything like that. As long as you kind of know how to fly a little bit, you can fly this thing pretty easily, especially, you know, in the stabilized mode where it'll kind of it'll always right itself. And it's really good fun to get out there and fly, especially FPV. It's a new thing for me, and so far I'm loving it. And all in all, for $350, I'm sure you could get something different, but you would have to buy individual pieces and put it all together yourself. Like you could get the eSheen goggle. You could get like you could build a quad for like $150 and then get like a cheap little Fly Sky radio for like $50 and come up with a battery and a charger solution. So it can be done probably for the same price, but you're gonna have to go and scrounge around and find your bits. And if you're into soldering and kind of doing things yourself and building things and trying to make things work, then that might be a good option for you. But I would say that if you don't like that and you just kind of want to buy something and immediately go out and fly, this is a much better option. And if you guys are wondering, these tri-blade props I have on here are the Dow Prop 5045s. They're pretty good. I've been flying these for a good while. I've been crashing them, I guess I should say. And they do get a little nicked up, but they have yet to break. And I've crashed this thing plenty of times. I've crashed it on concrete, crashed it into trees, just everything. So all in all, the quad itself, pretty durable. The Dow props, pretty durable. I would say definitely pick up some more props and some more batteries and just go out and enjoy this thing. So that's my honest opinion. Thank you guys for watching, and shortly, if you stay tuned here, I'll have some of the flight footage on here for you. If you like this, please subscribe. I'll have more reviews and videos of things that I find are worth spending money on.